All right, Adam and I back for practice number 6, and Adam, Mel Tucker keeps coming to us at the end of every practice and saying how great things are going, and we've heard this before, but it's a little bit different this time, isn't it?
Yeah, and he was asked, is every first-year head coach this excited about their group? And he said, I don't know about all those other coaches. I just know about what I feel about this group, and the same thing I'm telling you guys is what I'm telling the team, and he's not afraid to praise them when they deserve it. And he even pointed out some coaches have a different philosophy. They're scared that people will get relaxed if you do that, but he's not concerned about that with this group. And it's good to hear him say that because it kind of confirms what we thought, that if he doesn't like what he sees out here, he's actually going to tell us.
In between all these practices, 15 spring practices, now 6 here, 21 practices, there's only been one that he's come afterwards and said, these guys didn't really perform to standard. That was that one in the spring. And he actually mentioned it here today. He goes, look, if I didn't feel this way after the practices, I wouldn't tell you that. And he brought up that practice in the spring. He said, when we had a bad practice, I told you about it. And so, it kind of, I think it's kind of makes CU fans feel a little bit better when you hear him say that, hey, I'm not just saying this because I want this to sound good. They're actually playing pretty well.
Well, yeah. Yesterday's practice, he mentioned the front seven didn't play well. So there's been parts within those practices that maybe he wasn't happy about. That's a tough thing. I'm kind of envious sometimes of NFL writers because they have preseason games where you can actually see them go against a different team. In this situation, you just have to go with what the coaches say because aside from one, they're all close practices. So fortunately, we do feel like Mel Tucker's telling us what he really believes.
Yeah. Things he's talking about with us, he's mentioned a lot of players. He was asked today who's standing out, and he mentioned every day the guy that keeps standing out to him is Daniel Arias. He said he's making plays, whether it's catching the ball, whether it's blocking. That's a kid that's going to be hard to keep him off the field, isn't it?
Yeah, the key that Darren Cheverine told me in the spring was that he would have brain farts every once in a while and run the wrong route, and you just can't have that. If he shores that up, as talented as they are at receiver, he's just a physical specimen. His combination of size and speed, and he's a special talent, and it might be another year before he becomes a household name in the conference, but the sky's the limit for him, especially when he gets down and is always doing the right thing and running the right route.
Yeah, and spring was a very emotional time for him. His father was killed down in the Dominican Republic, and he took a short leave to go down to that funeral. Not very close with his dad, but emotional time for him. So maybe he's just kind of back in the right frame of mind after summer home with his family, things like that. But Daniel Arias, I'm excited about him, and like you said, it might be next year, but I'm excited about him at some point. Other guys that keep standing out, he mentioned Steven again, really throwing the deep ball well. Fans have got to love to hear that as well. We keep hearing good things about Steven.
Yeah, you can tell Mel Tucker when he says, I just love the way that kid spins the ball. We've always known he has the physical tools, and it's putting it together. Another guy mentions again is Mekhi Blackman, said he might be their most, improved player was the word they
since
used.
The spring,
And he continues to work in that star role, which again, he's 160 pounds, Mekhi Blackman, again tells you there's going to be a huge difference between how that star is used compared to the buff backer and the former staff used.
Yeah, the buff backer, I think, was just more of an outside linebacker. This one seems like more of a safety type thing. And Davion Taylor, I asked about him as well. He said Davion keeps getting better with his pass coverage, just a matter of kind of getting that consistency, but he's certainly got the speed there. So star could be interesting. There's quite a difference in size between Davion Taylor and Mekhi Blackman. So you and I both had a chance to talk to Coach Jay Johnson, the offensive coordinator. What were your thoughts from that conversation?
Well, he said they have 70 to 80% of the offense they're going to run this season in, so now it's getting that last 20 to 30% in and fine-tuning things. He's pleased with that. I asked about the backup quarterback situation, mentioned, hey, Tyler was number 2 coming out of spring ball, and he kind of scoffed and goes, it was so close that, it could have gone either way, and it continues to be really close. There's not a sense of urgency. Obviously, you have to name your starter because that's the guy that people have to rally behind, and he's got to have a certain mindset leading up to the season. Backup quarterback, probably not quite as much pressure. I would think the week leading up to the game, you've obviously got to know who's at least going to be preparing in case Steven does happen to go down in that football game. But I asked him, did you go back, because Tyler and Sam Neuer have both had game experience, and kind of evaluate that? And he said no, because the situations they were put in were not great for them to really show their skills. So he's he kind of gave them a fresh start. I know CU fans have certain impressions about those guys, but Jay Johnson likes at least what he sees from them on the practice field.
Yeah, and I asked, because when I asked about backup quarterback, he said, they're all just kind of rotating in there. And I said, what do you mean by all? Like Tyler, Sam, and he goes, and Blake as well. So he kind of threw him in there as well, Blake Stenstrom. And, I don't know if that's coach speak, wanting to keep him in there as well. But he said he really likes the way Blake is throwing the football right now. And Blake wasn't around really in the spring because he was injured. But it sounds like he's off to a good start at camp. So that might be a 3-person competition for that backup spot.
From what I could garner, though, he's a step behind those other two guys.
Yeah.
So I'd be pretty surprised if we see Blake Stenstrom on the field this year. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I would be too, but it was just interesting he would say that. I talked to Kari Kutch as well in competition for that left guard spot, and he said that's just a daily competition that he and Casey Roddick keep pushing each other and make each other better. But also mentioned another offensive lineman that just loves Coach Cap and loves the confidence being instilled there. Yeah. And it sounds like that's a huge thing across the board for this team, is the confidence being instilled by this coaching staff.
Did you get much out of Kerry? Because he's a kind of a blue collar lunch pail type of guy. It seems like when I interviewed him in the spring, he didn't really want to talk about himself too much, but he's a really nice guy, and you can tell he's worked his tail off since coming in here from the JUCO ranks. Yeah,
he doesn't have long, elaborate answers, but super nice kid, and he's a lot more comfortable now than he was a year ago. And this was a kid that came out of high school, a couple of FCS offers, and didn't really want to go that route. Felt like he could be better than that. Goes the JUCO route, really kind of bet on himself. And it's paid off, and now here he is fighting for a starting spot in the Pac-12. So, it sounds like he's a personable guy, just a little quieter maybe than some others. But, that competition is going to go down to the wire, I think.
Chris Kapilovich has said he is willing to rotate guys. I think a lot of CU fans don't want to hear that, because a lot of times when you don't settle on 5, you have continuity issues with that group. But at least maybe early in the season, you could see a Cush and a Casey Roddick, maybe even a Jack Shutak in there, just to see who really responds on game day. I think Roddick is intriguing because of his size and how athletic he is for his just sheer mass. But Kerry Cush he's shown that he has the work ethic, and maybe they're trying to keep Roddick as motivated as possible.
Well, I'd like to see Roddick in the starting lineup, just because I'd love to see him as a candidate for the weekly press conference as a starter, awesome. Because he'd be a fun one at the press conference. But that competition I think will go down to the wire. Same with backup quarterback. Anything else today?
Not really. It's funny. Mel Tucker said that this is the point in camp when you're a week in that you might have a letdown, so they address that head on. Yeah. I felt as I was driving here, camp fatigue was sitting in for me. I feel like I'm almost tired of hearing myself talk at this point, but we've got a ways to go.
Well, hopefully today's little session with Mel Tucker pumped you up a little bit and motivated you for the next week. Sure. So, I think it'll be good for all of us. But that'll do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about practice number 7.